In this video, I describe skills that you need in order to successfully summarize a text. So whenever we summarize, what's most important is that we summarize the source accurately and with the right amount of detail that the reader, who has likely not read the source, can kind of envision what it's about. But on this screen, I have several pitfalls that many writers run into whenever they're trying to summarize. And I'm going to give you examples of these. So the first one is the hit and run, which is when you only summarize for a sentence or two and then rush to your own opinion or response. The non-believer, which is when you summarize in a way that shows your bias or your loyalty to a viewpoint, and readers can tell if you disagree or agree with the author. The list summary, in which you inventory the author's points, but don't center the points around an overall claim within your own piece. So this is an example of the hit and run. So the writer says in the first article, Stanton reviews various studies and reports in 2011 and 2012, pesticide usage in the United States totaled over 498 million kilograms annually. This study supports the need for immediate action to save the birds. So the problem here is that the statistic that the writer has provided from the study about pesticide usage does not support the claim that the study supports the need for immediate action to save the birds. In other words, we don't have enough detail about this study to jump to the conclusion that it supports the need for immediate action to save the birds. So the writer would need to include more details about the study, including some of the writer's conclusions that do lead to this final argument about the need for immediate action to save the birds. All right, let's talk about the non-believer. So in this summary, the writer says the president's State of the Union address was nothing more than a dig at Democrats and a way to brag about the strong economy that he adopted from Obama. He gave a radio host a gold medal, and he also talked about how many new jobs he's created. So obviously, this writer is really biased. So you can tell from the summary that the writer does not align with President Trump and is critical of Trump's speech. That's not appropriate for a summary, because in a summary, you need to remove your own bias, and you need to just accurately summarize the thing that you're talking about, which means that you can't include your opinion. So this is not appropriate for summary. Another common thing that writers will do is they'll just give a list of all of the points without really telling why they matter. So in this example, the author says many different things about her subject. First, she says that birds are going to be extinct soon. Then she makes the point that pesticides are killing birds. In addition, she writes that birds can be saved by reducing pesticides. Also, she shows that birds eat seeds. And then she says that seeds are often covered in pesticides. So we have all of these different points, but we don't know why they're important or what the main argument is. So this is an example of how to more effectively summarize. So when you summarize, the first thing you need to do is tell the reader the author, the title of what you're summarizing, and a little bit about the author so that we kind of have some context. So I've highlighted that on this screen. So for example, in Jonah Berger's book, Contagious, so we know the author and the book. The writer gives us the fact that this is from a marketing perspective and gives us some background about the author. So this is a helpful summary because theoretically, the reader will not have read Jonah Berger's book. We're relying on the writer to fairly summarize the text and give us information about the author. Also, make sure that when you're summarizing, you write as if your audience doesn't know who or what you're talking about. So for example, here I've highlighted that the author just kind of defines what the word viral means. So the writer says challenges go viral or spread quickly across the internet. So the writer is defining it for the reader. And then also the writer defines this term social currency, explaining what it means. And so again, you want to define key terms for your reader when you're summarizing a text. You also need to use verbs neutrally and accurately. So notice the difference between the verbs argue versus observe. So a researcher can observe, but a journalist who is writing an op-ed could argue. Urge versus suggest. Suggest is more subtle, whereas urge is very urgent. Complain versus question. Complain makes it sound negative. Question is more positive. So choose your verbs carefully. In this way, you can appropriately